I've been looking at my eBay sales graphs lately and it's not pretty. I have seen a consistent decline in sales over the last few months. Maybe you have too. In fact, over the last 90 days, my sales are about half of what they were over the same 90 days last year. Why is that? It's easy to point the finger at eBay. Did the algorithm change? Their user base sure has declined. Am I shadow banned? I think eBay's search is busted. Did I leave the garage door open? The summer slowdown. Here's the real reason why my sales are tanking. It's because I have not been sourcing and listing as consistently as I should be. And what I am sourcing is not in very high demand. It's that simple. That's right, the guy who stood on his soapbox and preached consistency and discipline is not being as consistent and disciplined as he should be. And he has started talking in the third person, which is weird. And so what does he need to do to resolve that? The answer is obvious. He needs to be more consistent and disciplined with listing, and he needs to source more inventory that is in higher demand. And he needs to stop talking in the third person. You see, 99% of slow eBay sales problems comes down to listing more and better inventory as the solution. But very few people want to hear that because it means more work for them. It's much easier to just point the finger elsewhere because when you do that, it means less work for you. eBay's the problem, let them fix it. Look, I'm not saying eBay is without problems. Of course they have their own issues, and those issues impact your business every day, plain and simple. But when you put the blame for some problem on someone or something else, you are also removing your ability to solve the problem yourself. By simply blaming eBay or some external factor for the challenges life throws at you, you are giving up your power. You're saying this is their responsibility to fix, not mine. Therefore, there's nothing I can do about it, so I'm stuck until something completely out of my control changes. You should try not to do that. By taking ownership of the problem, regardless of what the cause is, you are retaining your power to come to a resolution. That sort of ownership of the problems that you face in life is very powerful. And look, even if it is eBay's problem, it doesn't even matter. That is 100% out of your control. You can't fix eBay. You can only learn and adapt and conquer. A few weeks ago, I put a call out on my community page asking if anyone had a listing on eBay that just wouldn't sell and you didn't know why. I got a ton of people who sent me links to their eBay listings, and I had planned on making an entire video out of it. I was going to review the listings and talk about the things the sellers could do to better optimize those listings to get them to sell quicker. But it turns out that every single listing had the exact same problem: low demand. The items these sellers were trying to sell were just not in demand, and in most cases there was a ton of existing supply or competition. You see, when supply is very high for an item and demand is very low, no amount of listing optimization is going to do anything to increase the number of buyers who may be interested in your item. Demand is largely out of your control. A lot of new sellers, and even some who have been selling for a long time, don't yet grasp the concept of supply versus demand on eBay. They buy items to resell without knowing whether there's any demand for them. Right out of the gate, their expectations are out of whack. They assume if some item has value, they can take some nice pictures, write up a good description, price it competitively, and it'll sell. And in many cases, that is exactly what will happen actually, but without understanding the demand an item has, how long it will take to sell remains a total mystery. And so they list and list and list and wait and wait and wait and get discouraged when they get very few sales. Instead, these sellers need to learn how to check supply and demand before buying an item to resell and adjust their expectations on how long it'll take to sell accordingly. It's really easy to do. When you search for an item on eBay and review the number of active listings, that is the supply and your competition. When you do that same search but filter by sold, that is the demand. Comparing active versus sold gives you an idea of the supply versus the demand. Items with a high supply and low demand are going to take a long time to sell. Items with a low supply and a high demand are going to sell very quickly. Let's take this listing that one of my viewers sent in, a Vineyard Vines pullover jacket. Vineyard Vines is a pretty nice brand that can command some high prices, but let's take a look at the supply versus the demand. I like to start by making very specific searches. This jacket is called a collegiate Shep shirt. If I search eBay for active listings for this specific jacket, I can see that there are 80 currently listed. If I switch to sold, I get 16. eBay's historical search data for sold items goes back 90 days, so 16 of these have sold over the last 90 days, and that is one sale about every 5 or 6 days on average. That means you can expect a potential buyer to come along once every 5 or 6 days to buy this particular jacket, but they have 80 listings to choose from. Those aren't very good odds if you're trying to sell this jacket very quickly. We can get even more specific here by filtering by size and condition. This viewer's jacket is new with tags and is an extra large. If I add those variables to the search query, we will see that there are 10 available and 2 sold. So we can expect a buyer to come along once every 45 days or so looking for this specific size and condition and have 10 competing listings to choose from. Again, that's not very good odds. It is highly likely that this particular jacket will take many months, if not longer, to sell. Of course, it could sell quicker, which would be great, but you're better off going into it knowing what the data says, setting your expectations accordingly, and assuming the worst. Also, this is a jacket, and we're in the warmer months here in the United States, so it seems likely that the number of potential buyers will increase as the weather gets colder, which will help it sell more quickly. Having a good understanding of supply versus demand means we can focus on some of the other attributes of the listing to see if they are helping or hurting. The next most important thing is pricing. Looking again at the 10 active listings and doing some quick math tells me that the average list price for the same jacket in the same condition is right around $70, with the lowest priced at $59. However, switching to sold and running the same calculation shows me that the average sale price is only $53. So even though the average list price is $70, most of them are selling for substantially less. This viewer has their jacket priced at $80, and so if they want to try to get their item to sell more quickly, I recommend they lower the price to be something closer to what the average sale price is instead of active. Personally, I'd price this one right around the $60 mark, which would put it as the lowest price in this size, condition, and color, and within range of the average sale price. Viewer, if you're out there, try adjusting the price and let me know how it goes, but be patient. Simply lowering the price is not going to inflate the demand. It's just going to put you closer to the front of the line the next time a potential buyer comes around. So if it feels like your sales on eBay have slowed to a crawl, this is exactly how I want you to begin to assess the situation. What is the supply versus the demand for the items you have listed? Have you ever checked? How is it priced in relation to your competition as well as the historical sales data? I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're not selling as much as you'd like, it's almost entirely because what you were trying to sell has relatively little demand. And if I'm wrong and you have items listed that are in high demand where dozens or even hundreds of other sellers' listings are selling but yours is not, most likely the problem is that you're priced too high. But again, I'm going to guess that for the vast majority of you, that is not the case and low demand is the problem. So, if you want to increase your sales on eBay, it's as uncomplicated as sourcing things that are in higher demand. I said uncomplicated, not easy. Of course, it's not easy to always source things that have high demand. This is why scale is important for eBay. Very few people, myself included, have reliable, consistent access to high demand inventory at a cost that leaves enough margin to be profitable. If you did, you would not be here watching this video. You can combat this lack of access to high demand inventory by increasing the amount of lower demand items that you have listed. For example, if you have 10 things listed, each that will take an average of 3 months to sell, you're not going to get very many sales, maybe a few a month on average. But if you have 1,000 things listed, each that will take an average of 3 months to sell, you're going to sell a lot more. So go back through your inventory to better understand the supply versus demand for your items. This is not going to make your inventory sell any quicker, but it will help you have a more accurate expectation for how quickly your items will sell. Use this as an opportunity to assess your pricing as well and make sure you are staying competitive with the market. Most people shop on eBay because they want a deal, and pricing your items at the low end of the range will typically mean yours will sell quicker than the competition. Oh, and we can't forget about consistency. I have preached the importance of consistency with both sourcing and listing many times on this channel because it is the single most important thing you should be doing if you want to see long-term success on eBay. It's pretty easy to stay consistent with sourcing. After all, that's the fun part. But sourcing consistently is nothing unless you are also listing consistently. And very few people, myself included, truly enjoy the act of listing. If you're sourcing regularly but listing only sporadically, your death pile will grow to daunting levels while you toe the line between reseller and hoarder. But it can't sell if it's not listed, of course, and eBay rewards sellers who list consistently by giving those who are active preference in search results. So if you're experiencing a drop in sales, I want you to be honest with yourself about your listing practices. I'll go first. Over the last 90 days, I've listed a total of 237 items, or about 2.5 per day on average. My goal is to list at least 5 items per day, so I've only been doing half of that, which is embarrassing. And over the last 90 days, I have sold a gross total of $15,214. During the same 90-day period last year, I listed 991 items, or just over 11 per day. And I sold a gross total of $31,758 during that same time period. That's over double. Obviously, there are a lot of variables that go into those two numbers, but this evidence is very hard to ignore. So if your eBay sales have tanked like mine, focus on what you can control. Source more, list more, and you'll sell more. And do your best to source inventory that is in high demand. The more inventory you have and the higher the demand, the more you will sell. It's really that simple. Everything else, like speculating whether eBay's algorithm has changed or dissecting the current macroeconomic environment, are mostly just distractions. I'm not saying those things don't have an impact on your business. Obviously they do. But again, they are out of your control. And so fixating on them or shifting the blame for subpar performance to external factors is doing yourself a disservice and restricting your ability to adapt and grow. If there's one thing in life you can count on, it is that change is inevitable. eBay is going to grow and evolve, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. That's part of what comes with building your business on someone else's platform. You give up a level of control in exchange for some value, in this case, access to their users. If you want to reach those users, you have to play by their rules and subject yourself to the outcomes that inevitable change brings. Adapt or die. Don't burn too much energy worrying about factors that are out of your control or pointing the finger at eBay, or you're going to be miserable. Instead, pour that energy into sourcing more and listing more, and I promise you, sales will follow. Thanks for watching.